Jeff Bezos' divorce could end up making his wife, Mackenzie, one of Amazon's biggest shareholders. So with that kind of power, what effect could it have on the e-commerce giant and shareholders? Hillary Vaughn has been looking into all this for us. Hillary, what can you tell us?
Hey, David. Well, some analysts I talked to think investor concerns should be extremely short-term surrounding this divorce. At most, they think this is probably a PR distraction, but not anything that will ultimately impact the company. Others, though, disagree, saying the future of Amazon is uncertain. Either way, there's a lot up in the air because TMZ is reporting that Bezos did not have a prenup and that the couple will file for divorce in Washington state. That's a community property state where assets are split up 50-50. So it's not just Bezos' personal wealth that's up at stake here. Control of his company, Amazon, could be too. Right now, Bezos is worth $137 billion and owns over 16% of Amazon. Mackenzie Bezos could be entitled to over $66 billion in a payout. And if she goes that route, Bezos could have to sell or transfer shares, diluting some of his ownership of the company. But legal experts say that that's not likely to happen.
I think there's going to be very little impact on Amazon stock. What's basically going to happen is that they're going to transfer as many shares of stock as they can that will still put Mr. Bezos in the position that he will be able to maintain control. So there'll be probably maybe stock that's transferred to his wife, but it will be probably non-voting shares. So therefore, he maintains all control.
Bezos also owns the Washington Post, also the space company Blue Origin, and has significant holdings in other companies like Airbnb, Twitter, Uber, Nextdoor, and a handful of others. So this divorce, either way, no matter who gets what and how it's divided up, will still go down as the most expensive to date in history. David?
Okay. Panel?
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty interesting that one of the points that wasn't brought up is actually the distraction it could cost Jeff Bezos, right? Like, as a shareholder, I would want to know that it gets done swiftly and quickly. I don't want an overhang. I want him focused on taking on all the other technology giants, especially winning market share in the advertising space. If he's off his game, if he's distracted by, divorce rumors, or he's out, trying to figure out how to take care of this situation as opposed to the business, that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, to your point, I don't think he's going to get distracted because we don't really hear about him too much in the news, especially if the National Enquirer is right about the latest scandal involving him. To point out, we are gossiping right now about a very wealthy man, but this divorce settlement, like Hillary mentioned, could be the biggest settlement ever. If we're going through the top 10 list, I was just looking at some of these wealthy individuals and their divorce. You got Rupert Murdoch, $1.7 billion settling, and then Mel Gibson is the top 10. They settled for $425 million, which I know maybe this panel will disagree that he's worth that much, but his ex-wife gets residuals on all of his future films.
Hillary, I got to ask you, Jeff Bezos is, known as being a brilliant guy. And when I heard no prenup, I was just stunned. Were you in the news and the legal community is kind of shocked about this as a man of such immense wealth to have no marital preparation planning for this sort of turn of events? Was there surprise there?
Yeah. There is a surprise, and I asked one of the analysts about that, if that was concerning to them, or they saw that as kind of being poorly prepared to be ultimately in charge of a billion-dollar company like Amazon, and they said they're not too fazed by it. But one thing to note about that relationship is they actually got married years before Amazon was even started and then became what it was today. So the argument could be made that there was no way that he knew that he would one day be in charge of Amazon as what is known today.
Just to move it away for inquiring minds, I think really what the street is going to be concerned about is he going to have to give up voting shares, or is there a different class of shares that he can give to his wife of the same value, so he still controls literally the vote of the company?
We don't know, right?
We don't know, because we don't know actually what the legal ramifications of what he has to give, and this is only 24 hours old.
I think the street's got another concern, which is what happens if she sells it at all, or at least a large part of it. That's going to dilute the share price. We don't know, Hillary, anything about her plans yet, do we?
No word on that at all, actually. We do know they're filing in Washington State, but how the court decides to divvy that up. And, there also are children involved, too. So, I mean, there's a lot of details that need to be worked out, and that's probably going to be something we find out much later.
Let's not overlook the detail that actually Jeff Bezos and his wife said this was going to be amicable, and they look forward to raising their kids together, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. So they have signaled that to the marketplace. But Jeff Bezos originally wanted to name the company Relentless. If you go to relentless.com, it forwards to amazon.com, and that shows you the type of guy he is. He's going to be relentless in not giving up control of this company. You can bank on that.
And he also said that he would remarry her again, knowing that they'd be divorced 25 years later. So I do agree with you on that, I don't think she's going to be getting rid of her shares anytime soon. And this is just going to wrap up quickly, but it was a nice little bit of gossip for the business world, I guess.
It's big gossip. I mean, it's a lot of money. And again, I just wonder what could possible. Jonathan, would you buy the stock? Would this be a consideration into whether you'd buy the stock?
I think, David, that's what makes it so interesting is that it comes at a time in which it's kind of put up or shut up for a lot of these FANG stocks. These were really the powerful stocks of the last 4 and 5 years in the economy. They were the Facebooks, the Amazons that really have been powering the market forward. So they got clobbered, especially in the fourth quarter of 2018. So I think this adds, as the panelists pointed out, this is a liquid market, a big stock, but it adds another twist, another element, I think, when making a decision that do you want to buy what's been a pretty significant dip.
All right, and I guarantee we'll talk about it again in some way, in some form. It's big news.